What's up, guys? So today's video we're going to work on the Nova again. If you guys watched the last video, I took the fuel cell out to clean it and get rid of the foam. It's one of those eBay fuel cells. Everybody says the foam's really crappy in them, and then I ended up taking the fuel filter out and it was packed with dirt. First thing we're going to do today is pull at least one side of the injectors out just to take a look at them, make sure it doesn't look like there's any crap in the injectors. And then we're going to get to work on the exhaust, putting those V-bands on. So let's get to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this fuel rail off and the injectors out, and then I'm just going to take a look at them and see if they look dirty or if there's any crap in them or anything. And, you know, take a look at the fuel rail itself also. I might pull both sides. We'll see how the one side looks. This intake, if you guys don't know, is a stock Trailblazer SS new body style intake that's been smoothed out. And I also use these eBay style fuel rails. Now I noticed someone on Sloppy a couple weeks ago had an issue where these intakes have these little brass inserts that the fuel rails bolt into. He had a problem with them pulling out, and I actually had that exact same problem because on these, to use these fuel rails with these injectors, I had to shorten the nubs where the rail sits, and then I ended up putting the things back in with some epoxy, thought it would be good, took it for like its first ride, and one of the injector rails lifted up and gas was leaking, so definitely not good. So then what I ended up doing is, I don't know if you guys can see there, let's see. Right here is where the fuel rail bolts. There's actually a hole under here, you can put your finger. So what I did is I just ran a bolt that goes right through. Where did I do with the bolt? Oh, it's still on there. It goes right through, and then I put a nut on the bottom and then tightened it up, and then that holds it in there like a locking nut. Oh, the bolt is still in here. It's actually like a, I don't know if I can get it out right now. It's a Phillips head. It's coming. Here we go. This is what I use right here. Like a Phillips head screw. It goes right through the brass insert, and then it goes into like a nut, and then it gets tightened up. And after that, I never had an issue. So yeah, we're gonna pull that fuel rail off and take a look. You can see right there where these little studs are right here, and they have those inserts, and that's what can pull out of the intake, even a stock one, like one that's not been modified like this one. So like I said, this pretty much just goes right through. You put a bolt in the nut, and then you're guaranteed you're not going to pull a fuel rail out. Which could be really bad. So I got the rail off. These injectors are Holley 120-pound injectors. I don't really know what I'm looking for. I just wanted to see if I could see any kind of like dirt or anything in here. I wasn't even sure what these look like inside. I couldn't remember, you know, like what that looked like. So you can see it's got like 3 little holes. But I'll just take a look at everything and then put it back together. I'm pretty sure that my issue was probably caused by the plugged fuel filter because it was pretty plugged with crap. So it definitely did its job well. All the crap was on the outside of the filter, not on the inside of the filter. So it definitely worked. So hopefully that's what it was causing the issue. Well, we're gonna find out soon, because once we get it back together, we can get it running, and once I finish the exhaust in the next couple days, the exhaust will be done, and then it'll be ready to get back on the road. So I got that all back together now. Everything seems good there. Like I said, we'll have to wait until I start it up, and we'll see. Hopefully it's running good now. Hopefully it's better. Some people were commenting about that we should get a transmission jack. Well, we do actually have one right here. The issue is it's at my house and not at Clayton, so when we put sometimes, you know, we don't have it out there, so we make do with what we got, but we do actually have one, and I actually use it quite a bit, pulling the 4L80 in and out of the S10 since it's so heavy. So yeah, I'm gonna get this thing jacked up and we'll start taking the exhaust off. See here, there's one of these kind of clamps, which I don't like, and then right down there there's another one. So basically my exhaust is pretty much like a true dual exhaust for like an NA car, obviously, because it used to be for my nitrous setup. What I'm also going to do too is I'm going to cut that crossover out of there, because I don't think it's really needed with the turbo setup. I mean, I had it on there with the nitrous setup. Maybe that'll make it a little louder too, not having that, I don't know. And it'll make it easier to pull the transmission out and get the exhaust off. So when I pull the exhaust out, I'm going to cut that out, weld the holes up, add a V-band clamp there, and then add a V-band clamp here on both sides. And then I'm also going to add a V-band clamp behind the mufflers at the tailpipe so that I can get all that off easier too. So I'm going to start taking these clamps off. I'm going to have to make some marks and stuff so that I know where the V-band clamp has to go. And of course, before I solidly weld everything up, I'll have to you know, test fit it and stuff. So let's start pulling this apart. It'd definitely be a lot easier to take all this off. Okay, so I went and got 9/16. Is it not 9? Oh yeah, it is. What the heck? I should have done this when I built the exhaust originally, but I never did. But we're gonna do it now. I think it'll make it a lot nicer, easier to work with, cleaner install, cleaner to take apart. That's one. I have to be careful on this side because the steering box is right here, so that V-band, I have to be careful that I have enough clearance to go around the V-band. Okay, that's those two. So here you can see how I have the coils mounted. Pretty much I just made it out of some aluminum angle iron and some little pieces of aluminum tubing to go between the coils, and they mount up there really nice, out of the way, you know, away from the heat of the headers and everything. Just perfect. So now I gotta have to take those two off and then start taking the exhaust off the rest of the way. I'm gonna go under there. I got all the bolts out. Hopefully I'm gonna come back with some exhaust pieces. Ugh. And here comes the second one. All right, I got it. It's another issue with the exhaust being the way that it is that it's a slip fit. So it's a pain to get off. I put silicone on there because I thought it was leaking. And, but you know, if they get rusty, they never want to come apart. Now I have to take the rear clamps off so I can get the whole midsection of the exhaust off. And then of course I have to take the two off that go to the turbos up on top. All right, so I have all the exhaust off except for the two pieces that are under the hood. So there's those two pipes, the whole main exhaust, and the tailpipes. I definitely would drop a lot of weight if I just took the exhaust off because it's pretty heavy, but maybe one day I'll redo it in like aluminum or something. But yeah, so that's it. So now got to start modifying and fitting and all that stuff. But that's gonna have to wait till tomorrow because I've been out here long enough. It's getting late. And yeah, so we'll pick this up again tomorrow, which for you will be like right now. All right, guys, so we're back at it again. So now what we're gonna do with the exhaust is, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean all this silicone off. Basically get a good surface here because I got a weld to it. What I figured I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this back a little bit, and then I'm gonna at least tack these on to this end. And I'm also gonna tack them onto the muffler end. And then once they're tacked on, or I don't know if I could weld them, I guess. So either I'll fully weld them or tack them. I'm gonna put this exhaust back in, lay it back in the car, bolt it back up kind of thing. And then I'll double check the tailpipes. And kind of what I wanna do is, because this pipe is stretched out a bit, this fits perfect, right? But on the tailpipes and stuff, because it's 3.5 inch, it actually slides. Of course, there's lots of rubber on there, but it actually slides over top. It slides over top. So then what I can do is pretty much put it in the car, line it up, figure exactly where it needs to go, mark it, and then be able to cut and weld it. I want to make sure that I don't want to just weld them on, because if there's a little bit of an angle in the way the tailpipes sit, if I just weld it straight, then it's not going to fit right. So I want to do that to be safe. We'll do the tailpipes, and then we'll do the head pipes that go up to the turbos. And it should turn out pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to start with cleaning up all these ends here to get ready to weld the V-bands on there. I got all the outside cleaned up. Now you can maybe see those cuts better. You know, that's just so that you can slip the two pipes together, and that's kind of where I'm going to cut it off, just to get rid of that first little edge. Plus that first little edge might be a little stretched out. We want the V-band to sit nice. I'm still going to get, now I'm going to get in here and I'm going to clean all this silicone out of here, because when you're TIG welding, if there's any crap on the inside, the fumes in that kind of screw the welds up. So same with this side, there's lots of just black crap in there, carbon and stuff. Gonna clean that up too. See, I got this cleaned up. I'm also gonna go over the exhaust. I see I have an exhaust leak, little leak right there. I'll kind of check it over. Anywhere it looks like there's a leak, I'll touch up while I have the exhaust off and the welder out. So yeah, now I'm just gonna get like a wire brush or something and I'll clean out the inside. So I'm just gonna cut that little bit off of each side. It's a little awkward because this is so big, but hopefully it's gonna go okay. It looks like you cut it okay. I mean, they cut them into 4 little individual pieces, which, because of those notches, each one's going to come off separately. So hopefully it did good. Smooth it out with the flap wheel. I think I got a pretty good fit here. Might do a little tiny bit more to make sure the gaps are nice, but pretty much that's it. It's going to get welded on. That end didn't have any cuts or anything, so I can just weld it straight to it. So like I said, my plan is to pretty much weld these on, then put the exhaust back in, and then continue on. Alright guys, so I got this one and this one tacked on, and Clayton is here supervising.
I'm just looking at the
and Mike also supervising.
Looks pretty good.
And then I got the 2 back ones tacked on also. So that's all tacked on now.
It's a blob.
No, it's a little blob.
Oh, fell off.
Oh, good. See? Then it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that little blob there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is put the exhaust in the car, bolt it back in, and then start fitting the tailpipes. But again, that's going to happen tomorrow because it's live stream time. Tune in every Wednesday night for live streams. And possible smelly burps and farts. So yeah, tune in for that. But like again, it'll be, we'll continue on this exhaust tomorrow, which will be now. All right, so I got the exhaust back on. I'll show you. So there you can see that V-band, and of course up there some more V-bands, and here. Now I have to clean up the tailpipes and then fit them back on, and I probably will have to cut them before they'll even fit, and then put the V-band on, tack it, and then I'll be able to take it apart and then finish welding it. So I'll do the tailpipes first, and then I'll do the front pipes, and then once all that's done, then I'll just have to do the ones that go to the very front. I got this one cleaned up. I hope it's going to weld okay, because it's actually a little rusty, this pipe. Like, not rusty, but surface rusty, you know, because these tailpipes are actually have been on the car for quite a while. And then you can see this one. Definitely lots of leaking going on back here because it's so black. So yeah, now I'll just clean this one, and then I'm going to have to definitely cut a bit off because I don't think it's going to fit in there, because that was my issue, is I had to slide the two together and it would never fit because this is so big. So I'll probably end up having to cut some off, but first I'll end up finish cleaning this up. Okay, so I'm kind of holding it in place, and you can see how much I have to cut off. That's how much used to slide into the muffler, so I'll have to cut quite a bit of that off. So I'm a little concerned because pretty much if I cut it where I think I need to cut it, oops, backwards, that puts this V-band like this, which is definitely no good. It can't be on an angle. It has to be straight. So I could go as much as probably there and still be straight. So what I'm going to do is I marked it. I'm going to cut this much off, this section. But what I might have to do is take those V-bands off the back, cut the muffler shorter, that extension out of the muffler. I might have to cut that down and then re-tack on the V-band to give me clearance. So yeah, I'm going to cut this and then we'll see. All right, so I ended up pulling the exhaust out again. Okay, so this is kind of like I marked it. And this is pretty much how far off I am. So I'm gonna have to do is cut these tacks and take off, I don't know, maybe ½ an inch or something, just enough so that this one can go straight. I'll kind of do some measurements and figure out, you know, like this isn't straight and how much more it has to go, and that's how much I have to cut off. Of course I cut this already, so I can only cut it so much, but this is why we tack and not fully weld, because, you know, and I thought about it when I tacked them on. Should I shorten these up a little bit? Maybe that would be better, and I guess I should have. So plus I'm also adding, you know, by putting these V-bands, I'm adding an inch. Well, that would make it even harder to get these on, because this is making this longer. I definitely should have at least took off the distance of this on here. So that's what I'm gonna do now. All right, so I cut off basically just the length of this. Now I'm gonna tack it back on. You can sort of see how much shorter it is than this one. I don't wanna cut that one yet because I'm just not 100% sure on if it needs to be cut or not. Probably does, but I wanna cut this one and get this one figured out, and then we'll do the other one. All right, so I tacked it and I got it back on, and now it fits perfect. All right, so it looks like I got lucky on the other side and it actually fits. I didn't have to cut that V-band off after all. Okay, so here's that side with the V-band all tightened up. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna push the exhaust in nice like that and then tack it. And then on this side, basically the same thing. It's in there, push it in, tack it. And then this one, there's still a piece going into the muffler right now that'll have to get cut off. So I'm just gonna leave these now. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll go to the front and I'll start doing the front ones. But right now I gotta go have dinner, so I'll have to continue this later. So it is later, a couple days later actually. Now I'm ready to test fit these ones. I cleaned all the crap and silicone off them for the most part. I'm gonna have to grind them a bit to weld them, but I just cleaned the stuff off. I think I might have to grind these welds down here where these little pieces are. So what I'm going to do first is throw them into the car and fit them and see how they line up, and then I'll clean it all up and then I'll be ready to tack them. Then once those are tacked, then I just have to figure out the top piece, which might most likely going to involve having to take the two that are still on the car that I haven't removed yet, which would be these two. This one and that one have to come off, because I'll probably have to shorten them up a little bit, etc. to weld them up. So yeah, let's get these on the car now and see how that all lines up. I ended up cutting like this much off of both. And I'll take you under there and I'll show you. So now you can see the V-bands. Of course, I'll have the bolts pointing the same on both sides. So yeah, so that's all good now. That's ready to be like tacked. So the only other thing I have to do is this joint up here and then the joint up here. So that's what I'm gonna start figuring out next. All right, so I got the exhaust pipes off now, both sides. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is I have to put that pipe through right here to get down to the exhaust. Of course, the headers and the steering box are there. So I'm hoping I have enough clearance. I took the V-band circle and tried fitting it through here. And I mean, it does fit. You know, it does go in there. so I'm hoping I shouldn't have an issue. What I'm thinking I might be able to do with this one is I had welded, this was just a straight piece of 3.5. I had welded these on here to expand it so they would slide over each other. They're both like that, you can see. So I think if I just cut this off, then the V-band should actually slide over this pipe, just like it does on the other ones. And then I can test fit it. I might not even have to cut any off those bottom pipes. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna carefully cut this piece off, leave me with just this part, and then like I said, this will slide up and down on here nice, and then I'll have to put it all back in, fit everything, tighten it all up, tack everything, take it all apart again, and then weld it all. So I got that ground down. I basically just cut it, most of it off. I got the V-band on there now, and so now I'll have to put this back in and then see how this is going to work. All right, so I got it back on, as you can see, and then I'll take you down below and show you. So there it is. It's up there. It fits. Once again, the clamp orientation probably will be different, but and then there you can see that clamp. So that's all clamped together now. All looks good. So next thing to do with this will be, like, all this has got to get tacked, and then once it's tacked together, then I'll have to take it all apart and then weld everything. But I still got to do this side, which I'll do next. I got the other one smoothed out. I got that piece cut off, and the V-band kind of just stuck on there. So now I'm going to attempt to stick it where it goes and see how it lines up. All right, I figured I'd film this part because we'll see if I'm going to get mad or something. We might have an issue getting it in there with the V-band flange on there. To look from the bottom, maybe. If so, it'll just mean like loosening the steering box, maybe, or something. Yes, I don't know. She's a little tight right at the steering box. Let's try without the flange. There's just a certain way. No, of course, without the flange, not a problem. But that's okay. So there it lines up really good. The only issue is, like, because the steering shaft is like right here and then the header's on the other side, getting it out will be a pain. But like I said, once that pipe's in there, it doesn't have to come in and out, only if I'm taking the turbo off or the engine out or something. So I just probably would have to loosen the steering box or whatever. I could take the steering box right out to get the pipe in and then put it back in. But yeah, no, it looks pretty good in there. I think that lines up pretty good there. Oh, no, I just made it fall down. Okay, but that's all good. So now I'll just position everything to make sure it's good, and then it'll have to start tacking everything together. All right, so it is the next day again, or another day again, and I'm starting to TIG weld up all these V-bands. So I got this one welded on. I was having a real bitch of a time welding it. Lots of contamination, which I'm assuming is just because it's a dirty, used piece of tubing. So that kind of sucks. But on the next one, when I do it, I'm going to try to clean it better. I'm using the non-chlorinated brake clean to clean it, but maybe I'm not cleaning out the inside good enough, and that's like when it heats up, that's getting in there and contaminating it. So I'm going to try to clean it better and weld up the other side, and we'll see how that turns out. This one actually still has some tubing on it that has to be cut off, so I'm hoping maybe this one will weld better because there won't be any contaminants or fumes coming out of there getting into the weld. So I'll give it a try and see what happens. I got the other one done. It turned out better. I changed the tungsten in the welder, and that helped a lot. But like I said, I think it might just be that the metal is old and contaminated, and even though I clean it, it still doesn't come out good. But I got this out, so now I got to weld this one and this one, and the 2 bottoms. So I'm gonna do that now. I got the other 4 welded, and now the exhaust is back in, all hooked up to like this point. So now I have to I want to take these ones, and I just want to retest fit them because the tack welds didn't quite hold, because it's kind of awkward to tack weld. So I want to make sure that they're lined up good still, and then I got to weld up those 2 and those 2, and then just double check fitment on the 2 top ones, and then pull those out and weld them, and then we'll be done. Those are done. So the only thing I still have left to do is take this one out and that one out and weld it. So what I am going to do, I'm just going to throw these 2 pipes in the car, make sure that they didn't move or anything, that they still line up good with these flanges. Then I'll start with pulling this one off, weld it, get it done, and then the driver's side will be the last one, which is the one that might be a little bit of a pain, because I think getting it out is going to be hard with the steering box. I might have to pull it off, I don't know. But so I'll try test fitting these and see how they work. I was able to get this one, passenger side one, out no problem. Here you can see a bracket that I had welded on that bolts to the frame to hold it stiff. So that has to be welded. And then I actually got this one out, which is the same thing. This goes actually to one of the, there's an extra hole in the steering box, and that's a bolt to hold it. So what I actually had to do was loosen the steering box off. And I think if I got in here and I ground this nub right here on the steering box, it probably would go, because pretty much I took the bolts out and the steering box is not very far off where it's supposed to be. So just take these 3 bolts out, and I was able to pull it out. But no big deal, because it's not like they come in and out all the time, and it's only 3 bolts. So yeah, we'll deal with it. So I'm gonna weld up these 2, and then they can go back on and bolt everything up, and it'll be done. All right, guys, it's another day, obviously. And the car is done. All the pipes are back on, and everything's welded up. I did start it up, and it doesn't seem to leak exhaust anywhere, which is really good. But I actually took it for a drive, and it's running like crap. I actually took the camera. I was planning on ending this video out on the street, and it's just running terrible. I was having some issues with it last year. I think it's just spark plugs, maybe. Possibly the spark plug wires. We're going to get into that in the next video, because this one's getting long. But yeah, so the next thing I'm going to do is try to figure out why this thing doesn't want to run good. And we'll do that in the next one. So yeah, check you later, guys.
Tony, do me a favor, will you please? Will you? Will you do me a kindness? Yeah.
I think I'm going to be walking in and out if you're going to park up, and I got to come back.
I don't make any difference to me at this juncture. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Tony. Don't slam the fucking door. No more.